What is up, guys? It's your favorite transparent YouTuber, Transparent Hoodie, back on the mic to give you guys a movie review. Recently, I want to kind of say, like 2, 3 days ago, me and my friend Navy, we kind of got together. We bought our tickets to see the new My Hero, Two Heroes movie. And I'm just here to give you guys my thoughts on it and just, overview of the movie itself. Believe it or not, like, obviously, you guys probably see the title of the video and you're probably just thinking to yourself like, oh my god, like what the fuck, like there's a guy that didn't like the movie, he thought it was a failure. How was this movie a failure? It done so well, everybody's giving it high praise. But like I don't know, like this movie, and I could definitely say if it's just me, then it definitely is just a me thing. But I just didn't like this movie at all. Like, and mind you, I didn't even have high expectations. Most of these animated movies that comes out now, like, I don't have high expectations for them at all. Like, trust me, guys. When I say this with the like the most honest I can, I guess, right? Whereas, like, when it comes to any of the anime movies I kind of watch, like, my expectations are very low. Like, my standard for anime has dropped over the years, and I've been watching and been a part of the medium for so long, it's to the point where it's just like, the things that I consider to be great, in my personal opinion, stories like Battle Royale, Vagabond, Vinland Saga, and I'm just talking straight manga, not necessarily anime, but these are the type of stories that I just validate to, in my head anyway, as the pinnacle of just what I like to see in any form of storytelling when it comes to just the Japanese media. So back to My Hero, like watching this movie, like I said, like my expectations wasn't very high, but the number one problem I had was just this movie established nothing for nobody. And I think that's the biggest problem I have with this movie. Like I said, my expectations was low, but I didn't think this movie would be such a throwaway movie. Yes, I've been watching other videos, I've been kind of seeing what other YouTubers been saying about the movie, and we'll talk about all those opinions along with my opinion. But like, the number one thing that I just didn't like about this movie was just like it didn't do anything at the end of it. Yes, I get it was filler, but at the end of the day, like you should go into any movie experience kind of leaving with some sort of message, some sort of like overall thing that even the characters themselves kind of left with. But I feel like Deku Bakugo and all of the kids kind of left with nothing, and that just sucked. But let me go point by point. First things first, I guess we will just talk about the overall consensus about the movie itself and everybody's like, opinions about it and stuff. Because for the most part, I haven't heard anybody's really negative opinion about the movie yet. I've kind of only heard the positives of it. And honestly, I just think the positives aren't really positives. For example, everybody is praising this movie for the sole purpose that, oh my god, all of the heroes or all of everybody in pretty much Deku's class were able to get recognition. And I mean, that's cool, but I don't know why that's something that we're praising about My Hero. Like, that's something that's always been established. Like, it's not, and I feel like that speaks volumes for how inconsistent the manga is and the anime is when it comes to showing these kids shine. Because believe it or not, like that's always been, or I guess at the time when Hirokoshi stated it in the manga, that's always been the consensus of UA. Like UA during the beginning of the story established that they don't want another All Might. Like All Might is not what they want to do for Deku's generation. They don't want to have they don't want to have an eclipse between who's number one and who's the other heroes that do anything in the world of My Hero, right? Because that was the problem. It was to the point where All Might was doing everything and he himself outshined and overshadowed all the other heroes. So for Deku's generation, Hirokoshi established that he wants all of these kids to some way, shape, or form be prevalent in the story of My Hero so that all of them get something to do. But like I said, like the story just became over time inconsistent with that. Like not every hero got in their chance to shine, not every hero got in screen time. Like he was kind of, for that idea during the beginning of the series, but then that completely dropped off later on. Obviously, he picked it back up with some of the recent events that have been happening in the manga with Class A versus Class B. Spoiler warning, I guess. So yeah, I mean, like stuff like that was actually pretty cool to see, but it's I don't understand how that could even be like that's even anything to help this movie feel like or look like it's a good movie. Like I really didn't understand that one appraisal, because that's always been the consensus. Like this was always the point of My Hero, for these kids to be in, like, all together. All of these kids all together were meant to be the new All Might. Not just Deku. Deku is not meant to be the new All Might solo. All of these kids were meant to be All Mights, you know, like. But like I said, the story is very inconsistent with its themes and what it wants to go for. So that's number one. Another good consensus is, or another good thing that people just been saying about the movie itself, was just that the movie is better than part one. And I'm just like, okay, part one, that movie wasn't all that good anyway. Like, that movie wasn't a good movie. Like, there was so many like throwaway scenes. There were so many dead scenes. There were so many. Oh my god! Like, this movie, if you want to talk immersion breaking, because this movie itself, like Two Heroes, it broke your immersion like this, like instantly. But that movie, I felt like that movie was more throwaway than this movie. Like, I would say, like, yes, technically speaking, this movie, Two Heroes, was better than Hero Rising. But it was like, it's kind of like comparing hot garbage to like sidewalk poo. Like, it's kind of, it's not that big of a difference. Like, it's kind of still in the same vein of just unenjoyable. But I guess, yes, I agree with that. This movie is kind of better than the last movie. So I don't know. This movie overall, to me, like I said, like, it did nothing for you. Like, as a My Hero fan, for myself, for just a moviegoer, like, this movie didn't leave off with any type of message or morals for Deku at all. Like, the one scene that I'll say that I genuinely liked from this movie was when Deku, he kind of played this big brother role, right, to the kid that had that quirk that the main villain wanted. Like, he was just like, hey, listen, man, like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the ideal version of a hero is, as long as you believe and you want, as long as you believe and you have the urge to be a person that wants to help others, you're a hero. And I love that little message that Deku gave to the kid. But I wish this movie kind of gave a lesson to Deku as well. That kind of just sucked. But like I said, let's keep on going. So those were the two things that people was really pointing out about the movie that people loved. I guess the animation also was really good as well, and the fight scenes was cool, but I really don't care about that. Like, there's over 3 bajillion animes with amazing fight scenes and great animation. So, like, us praising this for that, like, nah. Like, I don't do that no more anyway. But yeah, so those are the consensuses. So let's talk about, like, why I didn't enjoy this movie as much as other, I guess, My Hero fans. And it's like I said, like, everything about this movie it didn't have a proper payoff. And just to go into specifics, like, this movie, the tone was a bit all over the place, because obviously the whole idea about this movie was Deku and his friends, or Deku and his class, finally being heroes for the first time. There's not going to be any teachers. There's no adults here. These kids are now full-fledged, in a sense, heroes, right? They're in this island. They have to protect these people, help these people out, do what they got to do to make the living conditions for these civilians good. And then boom, things pop off. You got villain, you got turmoil, you got conflict. Cool, you know? But that's the thing, like, with all of that going on, I was kind of hoping for a lesson of some sort. It could have been anything. I was just hoping for some type of lesson for Deku. Personally, I was kind of hoping for, like, the lesson of failure, where Deku kind of understands what it feels like to fail a little bit. And that's the one thing that we didn't get, which, okay, but that's the thing. Like, this movie leaves you with no lesson at all. Like, what was Deku meant to learn? Like, what was these kids meant to learn? Like, yes, in some sense, they did learn that, yes, being an actual full-fledged, authentic hero is hard, it's difficult, and these are the type of circumstances that you're going to have to deal with. But they've already learned that lesson. This lesson isn't new to them at all. Like, being a full-fledged hero is hard is the lesson that you want to take from this. And I just felt like that was just so corny. Like, throughout the whole series of My Hero, regardless of this being filler, this obviously do follow the context of some of the things that happened prior. Like, they've dealt with All for One. You know, that situation alone would have let you know, like, being a full-fledged hero is not a task, is not a job to just, just bat an eye to. Like it's very serious. It gets very, unfortunately, deadly. You know, like that's just the scope of what it means to be a hero. But this movie, it kind of just wants to play around with the idea, but doesn't really fully execute it. You know. And then another thing that just completely turned me off to this movie was the main villain. Like, me and Navy, when we went to go see the movie, we were talking about the main villain for a little bit, and it was one of those things where it was just like, that villain made no sense. And yeah, oh, I forgot, like, people was praising the villain as well. Like, that villain made no sense to me, where there was certain things that he were doing that was just out of hand. Because, okay, the whole idea behind the villain of this movie was just that he's dying, right? His body can no longer withstand his quirk. So he needs a very specific type of quirk so that his body could, sustain itself. Like, this is the whole point of his agenda. Like, he needs to be able to sustain itself. But a lot of his goals and a lot of his objective was just kind of offhand. Like, if you needed this kid, Quark, to sustain yourself, why would you enter this island with, like, because he pretty much, the main villain, the way how his introduction is pretty much kicked off is that he goes out guns a-blazing. He's blowing up the communication towers, which makes sense. He's blowing up the communication towers. He's destroying all forms of exiting the island itself because, this is a remote island. He's destroying all forms of the island. He's kind of throwing off the civilians out of loop by causing chaos so that you can't really necessarily pinpoint his location, which I guess was cool. But then it's just like, why though? Like, dude, like in my head anyway, right? You're in straight up survival mode at this point, right? You're dying. Why would you come into this island guns a-blazing? Wouldn't you want this to be a stealth-like mission? And another thing too, it was just like, every time he uses his quirk, it accelerates his body deterioration. So I was just thinking, like, why would you even do that if it speeds up your untimely demise anyway? Like, why would you go out of your way to use your quirks, regardless of how powerful your quirks are? Why would you go out of your way to use your quirks just so that you're speeding up your deterioration? Like, me and Navy was pretty much saying, like, he could have gone about this all stealthily, like, slowly infiltrate the island, slowly disconnect the communications, like the amount, like, how loud this villain was just so unnecessary to us. Like, it was just such an unnecessary move on his part, where his objective is survival. It's not like he's here, okay, his objective is survival right now, but his grand objective is to pretty much reconstruct the world, right? Like every villain, like, we're here to reconstruct the world. We want the strong to be the pinnacle of society. Yada yada, villain mumbo jumbo, villain jargon. Cool. But again, like, you're dying, dude. So your thought process should now be survival mode. Until you get this kid, until you have his quirk in your pocket, that's when you go back to your original thinking of changing the hierarchy of society. That's when you go back to that thinking. But right now, you need to get this kid as fast and as quick as you can so you can get back to your original game plan. And that was the one thing that just turned me off of the villain, because he wasn't thinking on survival mode. He was thinking just complete out his ass. Like, for example, there was a moment and there was a situation where he was fighting Deku, and Deku was trying his best to just protect his kid, like, to protect this kid that this villain wants his quirk so badly. Deku was just going all out to protect this kid, which was cool. But again, the villain, believe it or not, he had the upper hand. Like, he genuinely had the upper hand against Deku. And instead of killing Deku, instead of just going for, like, kill blows, because obviously he does seem like he's a competent villain, like he's a competent opponent, like, and he has multiple quirks to work with, because Deku doesn't know what quirks he has. So he has the element of surprise. And this is for the first encounter, right? You would think, like, he would try to subdue or disattain Deku as quickly as he can. But no, like, he's playing this weird cat and mouse game, back and forth game with Deku, when he could have just ended the fight as quickly as he can just to scoop this kid up. And then plot convenience, I guess. Like, his deterioration disease or whatever is acting up. It's just like, oh no, I used up too much of my quirk. But that's the issue with this whole movie. Is just like you already know that you're on a timer when it comes to your life. When it comes to the amount of times you could use your quirk, you're on a timer. So like, why not go for very precise and very direct, blows? And I could understand the argument that, oh, if this villain was too smart, I guess, we wouldn't have a movie. But that's such a lame and shit argument. Like, I don't really understand. Like, I really don't get that argument at all. Where we have to kind of do these mental gymnastics to tolerate a movie. Because this movie could have been very enjoyable. I feel like this probably would have been leaps and bounds better than some of the animated movies that we have gotten. Or just right up there with them. But I don't know, like, this movie just really wanted you to do mental gymnastics or just not care about certain things, and that's what kind of overall sucked about it. So that was the villain. That was the villain in a nutshell. Like, just complete, I don't know, he wasn't thinking. He wasn't thinking. The writer wasn't thinking. Nobody was thinking for this villain. Like, this villain was just complete throwaway. Like, I just didn't enjoy him at all. Like, he completely just made the movie even more unenjoyable than what it was. And another thing, just the movie as a whole, like, I just didn't, let's not say I didn't get it, but besides just the message or the tone or just what the movie wanted you to leave the theater or just, I guess, leave you with, besides that, like, let's talk about the final battle, like, the final exchange between Bakugo, Deku versus this final villain. Like, even that was just, like, it was so weird, like, because Deku, he goes about pretty much, okay, I can't beat him or we can't beat him by ourselves. I am the only all-for-one user. I can't do this by myself. If the only way I feel like we could beat this dude is if there's two all-for-ones, right? And that part alone was kind of just like, okay, I see where you're going with this. Deku is about to transfer his power. If you're a person with any type of just intellect, you would understand that obviously Deku is not going to lose his power. So let's see how the movie explains this, right? Like, let's see how the movie goes about making this make sense. So Deku goes about the process of trying to give Bakugo his power of, I said all for one, my fault. One for all, my fault. One for all, one for all. So he's going about giving Bakugo his power for one for all, right? Cool. Deku still maintains a little bit of the power. Cool. They both together, with the little bit of power Deku has and the newfound power that Bakugo has, they both charge forward to defeat this villain. And they're able to do it. They're able to do it, which was dope. And I was just like, all right, this is cool. This is amazing. But then we get towards, a little bit later throughout the movie and stuff like that. We get to the ending part where Deku is talking to All Might. All Might shows up because, the students pretty much call over the teachers, or they pretty much try to ask for help from UA. The teachers come over and stuff like that. They're here to help out, do cleanup, make sure the students are okay, clean up the villains and stuff like that, pick them up. All Might has this conversation with Deku, and pretty much, Deku explains to All Might how pretty much I had to transfer the power to Bakugo. That was the only way. Don't worry though, I feel like he's going to be a great predecessor because, Bakugo was another person that did admire you as well. So cool. That was all cool. But then, again, we're going back to mental gymnastics that they want you to do, where apparently Deku's transfer method, it wasn't complete because Bakugo passed out before he could fully sustain the power. And I don't know about you guys. If you guys could tolerate that excuse, by all means. Like, I'm not here to say you should or shouldn't, but I just felt like that was complete and utter bullshit. Like, I haven't seen bullshit like that since, like, I don't even know. Like, my God. Like, you know what? I haven't seen bullshit like that in My Hero since the 1,000,000%, like, where Hirokoshi had to even explain himself on why he even had Deku say that. Like, it was just a stupid thing. But yeah, so I don't know, like, this movie, I know my thoughts were all over the place, but I feel like this movie was kind of all over the place as well. But this movie to me just wasn't all that great. Like it wasn't great. Honestly, it was borderline unenjoyable. The characters, I mean, it's always fun to see, Deku and his class be students, be kids and stuff like that. But the whole point of My Hero, in a nutshell, is that these kids are trying to be heroes. We're not watching like a weird shoujo. We're not watching a slice of life anime. We're watching kids trying to become the best heroes that they can. And I feel like the problem with Hirokoshi and his writing, or just the writing for just My Hero in general, is just like they don't have no clear cut direction on how exactly do they define what a hero is in their series. Like they have no answer for that. Like what is a hero? Like what do that means? Like what does it mean for society? What does it mean for an individual? What does it mean for just a person in general? I feel like the closest we ever got into a character just talking about what does a hero means to him and how society just morphed and contorted that meaning was Stain. But even Stain, his objectives and just his overall just his reasoning was kind of flawed in a sense, only because he went and did something that I thought was completely stupid and just off character based off of what he said. But that's not this type of video. This is about the movie, so let's not get into Stain's weirdly designed character. But yeah, I don't know. So these are just kind of like my raw thoughts. Like I said, like, yeah, I know it was a bit all over the place, but these were just definitely just my raw thoughts. If you guys, or if any of you guys watching this video is like a massive, like you love this movie, like you just adored this movie, please, I would gladly have a conversation with you guys in the comment sections for us to just talk about it. Because honestly, I wasn't feeling it. If you guys can help me, I guess, see what you saw. Definitely, I gotta know, man. Like if you guys can help me see what you saw for this movie, by all means, like I'm happy to discuss it. I'm happy to talk about it. I'm happy just to conversate about it in any level, like, because I just thought this movie was just shit. Like I really thought it was a bad movie. But that's all I have for this video. If anything, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. If you did, definitely leave a like if you did like the video. Definitely leave a subscribe if you want more content like this. But yeah, Transparent is fading out. Peace.